Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. I'm another year older, and we're all deeper in it. Jimmy Kimmel suspended, Roger Jackson's in jail, and Tony Khan's in a revolving routine of repetitive rottenness. All that and more today, and to join me, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, St. Peter, don't you call him, because he's got a podcast to do. Be great, Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. Other than the 3 hours of AEW I watched, it's a pleasure to be here. Other than that entire block of time, yeah.
Yes, other than all of those things. Do I sound older to you?
Now that you say that, yeah.
Well, God damn it. See, right here at the top of the program, you're supposed to, even if you're not a friend of mine, as a good podcast co-host, the Ed McMahon to the Johnny Carson, you're at least supposed to lie and say, no, Jim, you sound like a young Pip.
You sound young, Pip. Mickey, you've never sounded younger.
I sound like Burgess Meredith's version of Mickey instead of Tony Basil's.
That's right. That's right. Get up, you son of a bitch! Because Mickey loves you.
Yeah, I got my various ailments going on today. Nothing serious, folks, but I had the birthday. 64 years old now, Brian. Can you believe just one more year from being a round number, which is actually not a round number. 65 is an odd number, but that's like the number where then it's all downhill, right? Or is it uphill? Did we ever solve that problem?
I think it's uphill, and I also think you've been going uphill since you got off the road and got out of the wrestling business, so I think you're going to probably be like 110 one day.
I don't know if I can take it. We were going to have a dinner here at home, but since Stacy's mom she had another procedure on Sunday, and she's going to be in the hospital a little while longer, so Stacy's sister Brenda came out from California to visit her mother because she hadn't seen her since she moved. And with her in the hospital, I didn't want to have a big wing ding here. So we just bopped over to Mark's Feed Store, which is right down the road. And I stuffed my face with the wonderful lemon pepper fish dinner, which is fried to perfection. And also I didn't have burgoo this time. I switched up and had the fried pickles. I just went crazy. And then the picture of my nothing bunt cake that Stace took got a lot of attention on Twitter. And thank everybody for that said happy birthday and everything. But do you know what a 64-year-old retired wrestling manager and podcasting genius put on his wish list for his birthday this year that I've either got or am getting? One has been delivered, others are in the pipeline, so to speak. Guess what, Brian?
Power Town action figures.
Oh, come on now. I'm not going to live long enough.
What have you ordered that's in the pipeline? You already have pieces of it?
Well, not that I have ordered. No, you're not listening to the words. They're coming out of my mouth.
There were a lot of words.
Well, that's because I got a lot of mouth. I said, would you care to know what's on my list of things that I asked for my birthday? Some that have been delivered and some that are still in the process of being brought to me.
I am. And also, what did you say before? You said it was a nothing bunt cake?
A nothing bunt cake. That's the cake place over here, where the cake place, where the cake ladies sell you the cakes. Nothing bunt cake. They're all bunt cakes of various sizes. That's all they got. Hence, nothing bunt cakes. And they have wonderful flavors and tremendous icings and a cream cheese icing and a raspberry filling and just various things that they have there.
And the other good thing is what it rhymes with. So if they ever piss you off, you could say, hey, give me my cake, you bunt.
Why don't you workshop that one a little while
You
longer?
bunt. Do you have to put, I guess you have to kind of make a little bit of the sound for it to work, but
You just work on that whole thing later on, off the air. I wouldn't yell at these ladies. They give me my nothing but cakes. But anyway, nevertheless, back to what were you saying? I had asked you something and you just completely changed the subject.
I did. I'm really good at that. You had a wish list for your birthday, and we were supposed to
I'm
guess
not wishing.
what it was. The Sibian.
No, for heaven's sake. Those things last forever. The one we got 20 years ago will be fine for. No, it's not a wish list. It's my birthday list. And these are the things that I wanted. And I got already my 5 pounds of Provel cheese from Emo's Pizza in St. Louis. That has already been delivered, has safely been stored in a brand new freezer. And also, I'm getting a new George Foreman grill and a new Shark vacuum cleaner, the top of the line model they got there that just sucks the daggum sand out of cement. That's what it's come to is when you're 64, Brian. These are the things that you want for your birthday: cake, tools, and cheese.
And sleep. You made a joke before about the lifespan of the Sibian. What's the lifespan of a George Foreman grill?
Not too goddamn long, the way I put pressure on it. No, here is the problem. The problem becomes that the thing will work from now till the cows come home, but the non-stick coating starts with washing, starts coming off of the plates, and then it's just a bigger pain in the ass to clean it than it is to buy a new one. It wouldn't that the non-stick coating is the key to the whole thing.
All right.
So
Sounds like a great birthday.
How long have you had your Foreman grill?
I don't have one. I've never had one.
Oh, come on.
That's why
now.
I don't know. That's why I have no idea.
What in the world? You have had
grill.
some type of...
I didn't need a George Foreman grill. I had a grill.
You need a food counselor. You need someone to do a deep psychological food examination of you.
Who?
And some food psychologist, you know, with all the big food psychology firms. And they need to do a study of you and find out how you develop these entirely warped outlooks and or methodologies toward all of your eating habits all your life.
I think that the people who follow me are a bigger constituency than you recognize. And one day when all the sausage is gone from your pizza, remember this day, my friend, because this is right now getting put in my head and I'll remember it.
Sausage censorship. We'll get into that, but I did want to say thank you to a couple people who sent me shit for my birthday. And Brian from Reno sent me a gift card to Mark's Feed Store that I got literally the day before I went to Mark's Feed Store. And a roll of toilet paper with Kevin Dunn's face on each sheet.
Where do you get that? What store sells that?
I think he had it specially formulated over there at the fucking Charmin factory. I don't know.
Have you ever worked in Reno?
No. As a matter of fact, I have not. I've worked in Las Vegas and Laughlin when it comes to Nevada places. Continuing, Mark Cole, thank you for sending the comic books for me and Stace, a Marvel horror comic for me and a Batman with a Harley Quinn story for Stacy. And this guy named Brian Last sent me a copy of the is that the only one they made? They just, it took them so long to make this one. It's like 1,000 pages hardcover on the work of Irwin Allen through the movies and TV shows. It's the most fascinating thing. It's a giant book. It weighs 60 pounds. The mailman was hunchbacked. They may not have had time to print that on a mass basis. It may be the only one. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Next year, I'm going to get you the poetry of Quinn Martin.
That'll be a little shorter, won't it? A little lighter. And also the one fellow Who doesn't want to be thanked? Thank you. You know who you are.
Is it,
But
is it
otherwise
porno
than that-
Steve?
Oh, why does your mind always go in the gutter?
Because, I'm talking to you.
I'm old now. Can't I retire from perversity? I'm over here asking for vacuum cleaners for my fucking birthday.
Doesn't mean porno Steve is retired.
You're like a fucking 80s teen movie, horny fucking character over in the corner going, what the fuck? I don't know.
I'm hoping the teen movies make a comeback. 80s teen movies, not 90s teen movies.
I think all the same ones should just remake their own movies, and look like they are now. Well, they're all dead, aren't they?
How did Revenge of the Nerds affect you as a ringside manager? Were fans yelling things from that movie at you at all just because you had the glasses?
I don't know, because I never saw the movie. I was at ringside being a manager. So they were just insulting me in general. Was there that much profanity in the Revenge of the Nerds movie that the things people used to yell at me were in the movie? My God.
Just, hey, nerd. Like, did you get that?
No, I got a lot more like, hey, motherfucker, look at my knife. Instead of, hey, nerd. Hey, nerd would have been a fucking, been a night off. I'll kill you, you son of a bitch, and your whole family. Or, you goof.
Hey, Poindexter.
Yeah, Poindexter.
Where's your calculator?
Yeah, I'd have rather heard that from the guy that vomited on me in Little Rock, Arkansas that night.
Jim Ross?
No, one of the actual ticket purchasing patrons.
Oh. What do you mean
yeah,
vomited
it was
on
actually
you?
in the arena rather than after the show.
I've heard about all your fights and all the riots you started.
I've told you that.
The vomiting on you? I don't remember that one.
I got back to we were in Little Rock at the Barton Coliseum, sweet Connie, and had wrestled whoever, and were on the way back from the ring. And Little Rock was also where the cop gave me the bulletproof vest earlier that year when they got new vests on the force. He said, here, this is my old one. You need it. And that's where they had called in the death threat to Ted DiBiase. I want to shoot that son of a bitch. So all the cops were there that night, and they hoisted me up in the cage. And I'm looking around, the best target in the house for the guy with the gun. So the big 400-pound cop that would bear hug me and back me out of the building so he could look over my shoulder while all the other cops are around Bobby and Dennis are taking us down the aisle as normal, and people are throwing things and yelling and fucking trying to swat at you and whatever the fuck. I get back into the backstage area, not even into the locker room, and I look down, and my pants from the mid-thigh all the way down to the cuff of the pants of my suit had puke. Vomit. What's the more polite terms for upchuck? Somebody had gone to Europe all down my goddamn leg.
I think that's it. I think that's the range of them. Yeah.
And what the fuck? And I'm trying to tiptoe, and I'm trying to take the pants. I'm taking the pants off before we ever got in the locker room. I'm out in the goddamn breezeway back there. And I never, with number one, the aim, because we're moving and we've got cops around us and there's all kinds of people, flummoxing around. But also I never knew, were they able to do that spontaneously, or did they do it before at home and save it and bring it with them?
You think that's a possibility? I know people would do crazy stuff to heels. You think someone would do that?
Well, it wouldn't. I don't know if that would be the first time for that, but those people used to get creative. Remember in Lake Charles, Louisiana, they did this to Skandor Akbar before I got into territory, because I was hearing the stories. That's why I always kept my head down. The cops in Lake Charles would circle you. We had like 10 or 12, the heel side. And they'd make a circle, and they would walk down the aisle with the heel in the middle, so there's no way the people could even reach inside. They'd hold arms. So the fans got the idea to put Drano in water guns and try to squirt the heels in the eyes when they were going by.
That's amazing.
they were creative as fuck. And you always had to watch out when you had to walk out into an arena from an overhang where the people were allowed to sit right above you, because many more than one guy in the business has been beaned by them dropping one of those old-fashioned metal floor ashtrays or just any kind of heavy object.
Man.
See, and they were up there. They're up there in the general admission section where they can just take off before any cop on the floor can get up there. They've got ways they can get away, right? But no, any kind of heavy object that could be dropped off of a fucking deal. That's why sometimes you would see in the old territory days, they would block off the several rows of seats right above up where you had to walk out. And in Houston, at Sam Houston Coliseum, that's how people were able to chuck the bottles at us, because after you got out of the floor seating, you had about 50 or 60 feet of open floor area. And then you went under bleachers that hundreds and hundreds of people were in the upper part of the arena. So they would wait because they were polite enough not to want to hit some old lady at ringside. But when you got in that clear floor section, then you were open for people to fling the bottles from above. And so you had to keep your hands over your head. They put up a net in Boston, right? Yeah, because the people at the Boston Garden in the 70s were doing the same thing. So they strung a net over the goddamn ring.
There's a famous story about my friend Roy Lucier. Hello, Roy, if you're listening. La Revancha in 93, that big AAA IWC show that Ron Skolar did in LA, where it was bigger than they expected. It shut down traffic. Like, it became a big deal. In a lot of ways, it put AAA on the map in America. Roy got to the show, and before the show even started, he took out his sign. He was kind of famous for having this sign, 100% Rudos. He was cheering for the heels. Well, those people did not like that. So they all started throwing things at him. And now he was, the story goes, walking around the building with this sign, and they're throwing things at him, including dirty diapers. And it's the same question you just asked. Did they bring in the diapers with them? Or do they have a baby there? And like, quick, change his diaper. Give me that diaper. I need to throw it at this guy, who, by the way, Roy got kicked out of the building before the show started. He got kicked out like as the opening match was getting ready. But that's like the famous story. You know, people were just going crazy. He was supposed to sit next to Bob Barnett. Bob's like, get out of here. Don't come near us.
Yeah, stay away from me, snipers.
But dirty diapers, is that like a common thing?
No,
or was it
well,
then?
yes. Mexico, when I got into business in the locker room, Mexico was noted for people. I'm trying to think, because Adrian Street had been there and he mentioned it, that some way or another they would light books of matches and fling them at you, but they'd put some on it where if it landed, it would stick to you. And also they would piss in cups if you were walking through
I've heard of that.
Underneath a bleacher or whatever, they'd piss in a cup and dump it on your head. I've had guys tell me that in the Bahamas, and definitely I know that this happened a couple times in Puerto Rico, there were kids that would sit outside the building and sell the people rocks that they could put in their pockets so they could throw at the heels. So, I mean, it just depends on,
Rocks. We got rocks. All different sizes, rocks.
Yeah, get your rocks here. Get your rocks. But no, I think Japan is the only country, because in Canada, my God, they used to have sword fights in fucking parking lots of some of the shows in Ontario. And the heels in Toronto back in the 40s had to hide under the ring. They built the ramp to keep the wrestlers from being lynched by the participants, by the patrons. But Canada, United States, Mexico, everywhere that I can think of except Japan has had fan violence.
They throw the seat cushions, but that's only when they're disappointed in the booking.
Yeah.
That wasn't about heat. That was like, we reject this.
But otherwise, no, I mean, not even talking about just the creative ways, but the just various stabbings and knifings and shooting attings and things over the years. No, the guys now, I understand, especially for the ladies. And this, I don't care whether I'm a fan of the particular girl wrestler or not, or whatever, but for the ladies now, it's unnerving. It should be unnerving, and they ought to give them security, especially the ones that anybody knows. I mean, not every independent girl needs a bodyguard. They can kind of blend in. But I have a hard time, sympathizing with the guys. Oh, they're haranguing me for my autograph and this and that and invading my privacy. There were people trying to run us down on the fucking interstate. So, fuck off.
More than security to the ring, the women in wrestling today legitimately need security outside the ring. There are so many crazy stalker fans.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For them, it is unnerving, and I think they should give them security. The company, I have too many pronouns, pal. The company should give them security when they're traveling to these high-profile events, and people have figured out where to fucking, ambush them for the autographs and the pictures and the whatever. And I think they should, for the guys, they should have security just to get them through crowds. But I don't feel like any of the guys should be afraid of their lives, just afraid of their goddamn day being spoiled by a bunch of assholes. Nevertheless, speaking of assholes, Brian, just real quickly, wouldn't you know who won the pony? Can we be entertaining today or tell jokes, or is that now illegal in the United States of Trumpistan? Can we still have fun and laugh, or do we have to wait until the government lets us know?
I think we're safe.
I don't know the protocol.
I think we're safe. We're not on broadcast TV.
Well, we don't need a license for what we do. We're
That's
completely unlicensed.
Uh-oh.
God,
oh my God. Oh, it's the federal government. Oh my God.
Please don't answer it while I'm on the phone. The gas may come through the fucking line.
I've hung up. If I'm not here in a few minutes, I've hung up.
Anyway, we'll talk a little bit lower so not as many people can hear us.
Oh my God.
We don't need to be licensed here, since we're just two guys doing podcasts, man. But if you're one of the former celebrities in the broadcast industry, where your corporate company parent makes billions of dollars and wants to have a merger with another company that makes billions of dollars, you better just stick to goddamn reading what they want you to read. Now, for the international folks out there around the world that still live in somewhat free societies with a thing called freedom of speech, that listen to the program outside the borders of the United States of America, we said a few months ago, or however long it's been, they canceled the Stephen Colbert show on, I believe it was CBS. He was on CBS because...
Still is for the next...
well, he still is. It's been canceled, but he's still on. But because Dear Leader didn't like what he was saying. And, they said, well, the show's losing money. But let's be honest, Brian, you can't even argue with this. If you canceled the show or contract of everybody in entertainment or sports today that is overpaid, we wouldn't have nothing to watch.
Absolutely.
Fair statement?
Oh, that's a very fair statement.
All right. But all of a sudden, when you know who won the pony? Stephen Colbert, because he's been mocking Schittler and his band of merry henchmen the whole way. And I mentioned at the time, facts and logic and reason and evidence and video and audio and testimony and whatever has not worked. But humor gets under this fucking guy's skin because he's a tiny little man baby with a teeny little peeny. And his ego is so giant, he can't take it. It sends him into a turmoil, but also he knows that it's an effective tool against the thought of him, that it makes people see what a befucking foon he really is and the incompetent people that he has put in charge. by just telling the truth about him in a humorous way. He can't take it. So now, folks around the world, on ABC, which, by the way, is owned by Disney, which is owned by who the fuck? I don't even
Disney.
Fucking know how far.
Disney's still owned by Disney, but obviously they're trying to do deals because everyone is talking to everyone else. And also broadcast TV, you have, at this point, it's not just people who own networks, or people who own stations. It's companies that own a conglomerate of stations.
Yes, that's the point, is all these people, and what is it now? Nexstar is trying to do a merger with Zabada for billions of dollars. And the point is, after Trump crowed about Colbert being canceled, then he said Jimmy Kimmel's going to be next, because for a long time now, Jimmy Kimmel has been telling the truth and making fun of Schittler and his various associates. And again, we just found out Jimmy Kimmel has been indefinitely suspended. His program will not air right after the chairman of the FCC, who was appointed by the current president, came out and said, this is terrible to allow these type of comments, and I think we ought to pull some of these TV stations that are affiliated with ABC's broadcast licenses. In other words, we, the government, are going to look into pulling the station's licenses and shutting them down because the guy on their air said something we don't like. And then also the company that owns a bunch of stations that is also goddamn wanting to own more stations, that wants the merger. Well, golly, we're not going to air these programs. It's against the public interest. It's against your fucking bank account interest.
You saw the other company that got involved in terms of companies that own a lot of stations, right? Sinclair.
Which stole Sinclair, our old friends at Sinclair Broadcasting, because the guy that owned that thing and their whole administration is a bunch of right-wing fanatics, which I wasn't even aware of at the time. I'd never heard of Sinclair Broadcasting before Gary Jester said, hey, I know a guy that works in it. But nevertheless, the point is, so they decide, and not only did they decide to suspend his show indefinitely, because basically they took it seriously that all of these affiliate stations may be at risk of losing their license from the FCC, which is controlled by the current administration. But they got death threats after this fucking guy, the FCC chair, Brendan Carr is his name. They were getting death threats called into Disney and the people that work at the Jimmy Kimmel show. Because these people believe anything that's put out in that fucking bizarro world they live in. And they feel like they got to take action on it. But nevertheless, the point is, freedom of speech.
Well, let me just say, though, irrespective of the overall issues of, Trump trying to silence his critics, I do think Jimmy Kimmel fucked up and made a really ignorant comment without having any of the facts. And that's probably what triggered it more than just him ranting against Trump in terms of him specifically, not that Trump's not trying to silence all these people.
He was waiting for the opportunity. Kimmel's next was through 2 months ago. And guess who was next? Kimmel. He was waiting for an excuse that his base would fire up about to fucking put pressure from the guy that he appointed to run the fucking Federal Communications Commission on the networks to fucking take this guy off the air because he tells the truth about him, but he can't stand it because he makes jokes about him at the same time. Did I mention his teeny little ego, or his giant ego and teeny little penis? But in what previous presidential administration, going back to the dawn of television, Republican or Democratic, has the president and the FCC actually canceled somebody off fucking air for saying whatever. And this fucking pig sits on the goddamn couch all the time over at Fox News, where one of their people just said last week, we ought to deal with the homeless by lethal injection.
Yeah, that's insane.
And not phrased in the form of a joke. So what the fuck? It's insane. Trump doesn't want people making fun of him. That's the fucking key. It's all the comedians, because they can sway public opinion. The people that think that this fucking guy is a savior instead of a fraud cannot be convinced otherwise by facts. They can't be convinced by evidence. It's been tried for years. But if you make fun of the fucker, everybody laughs, especially when it's all true. And that's the way that we'll get him eventually. And that's why he's doing this right now.
Well, again, I agree that Trump and his administration are doing everything they can to silence critics, but specific with Jimmy Kimmel, and I don't think Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert are motivating young people or moving young people. It's more just they're making fun of him. He doesn't like it. But with Kimmel, Kimmel, who doesn't have a big audience, should have known better too. He basically gave them what they needed to get rid of him.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I think that's, part of the thing too. If Jimmy Kimmel had 10 million viewers a night, and I know that's an impossibility in the modern day world for any late night show to have that unless someone really took off like Steve Austin or something. Like no one's getting those kind of numbers. Then maybe someone would fight on his behalf on whether it's the network or anyone else because he was bringing so much money in. But, when you have when you have a small audience and you know that they're out for you, you know that the administration does not like you and hasn't for a while and has made it pretty clear that they're coming for you, you should probably also be extra careful. I'm not saying that's right. I don't think that's right.
But see, that's also
the reality
what
of the
they
situation.
Want. That's also what they want. They want people, because we cancel a couple of the names, then everybody else will fall in line and the TV stations will be scared and they're going to lose their license. That's what they want. But with Kimmel, I'm sure he thought just what you said. He don't give a fuck, because it wasn't just that show. He hosted the fucking Oscars. He just won the Emmy for hosting a primetime. Oh, the goddamn Who Wants to Be a Millionaire remake, revamp, whatever. And that was a primetime show. And the last contract he signed, they had to talk him into it. And he was joking about like, I'd like to quit anytime just because he's got fuck you money. And other people,
but he doesn't have an
audience.
That's the point.
But if another network has any balls, they would immediately put him on something, because they're getting the host of the Oscars, for fuck's sake.
See, that's the interesting thing.
They're getting a fucking guy that's seen by tens of millions of people at some point because of the numerous things he does. But they've also got a guy who, if nobody hires him, he can do whatever he wants. He's fucking rich. And that's why he don't give a shit. And that's why he was telling the fucking truth.
Well, I think a lot of these guys like having the forum, and that's going to be the interesting thing. I don't think another network's going to take a chance, at least right now, on any of these people. For the next few years, I don't think they will. Where will they go? Will it be a Netflix? Will it be something like that? It's going to be interesting. I wish Trump had started with Fallon, because he's been the biggest offender of bad comedy and bad weak. Let's hug celebrities and everything's wonderful and let's just all smile. That brand of fucking late night talk show, which ruined late night talk. Letterman and Craig Ferguson left, and then late night talk died, and here's where we are. But
and Letterman ain't a fan of this. No, did you see what he said?
I did see that, because coincidentally enough, he was speaking at like some conference when all this happened. I don't even know what the conference was, but the bearded David Letterman, who, he said all the things you would expect him to say if you ever watched his show.
And it's a ridiculous affront to the supposed free speech that these clowns have been advocating for, which they advocate for the free speech from their side when it's bullshit. But when you fact check them or give them some of their own shit back, then, oh, that's horrible.
On both sides, though, I do think both sides conflate free speech with, there's a difference between standing outside and saying whatever you want, or going on Twitter and saying what you want, and going on someone else's airwaves and saying it, because you're not going to get in trouble. They'll get in trouble. I remember when Howard Stern, when he was still a great radio show host years and years ago, when the FCC came after him, I believe it wasn't really about him. They came after the company. And, people thought at the time, yeah, because if they fuck with the company and give him fines, they'll drop him. That was the philosophy. The FCC fucking with people isn't a new thing. People being censored for saying what their audience, like the Smothers Brothers. I mean, people don't even bring them up in the context of all this, but the Nixon administration made sure that the Smothers Brothers got off the air.
Yeah, I appreciate your Stern analogy, but at the same time, we're not talking about people that are, talking about whipped cream up strippers' pussies or whatever, So the Smothers Brothers comparison is the most apt, I think, because the Nixon administration made sure that they didn't keep swaying those young people with all this fucking truthiness.
It's the most apt in terms of a comparison to the situation. The Howard Stern one is most apt in terms of what kind of damage the FCC can try to do to your company.
But at least then the FCC, it was just run by a bunch of old white stick in the muds that were upset about all this fucking profanity and things and such and that nature, rather than we need to shut this shit down because we're getting away with stuff and these people are telling on us.
Do you know much about the broadcast licenses, how that works? Because obviously that's the big threat. If you don't comply with us, we'll suspend your license or take your license. I don't know exactly how it works, but what goes into having one? Like, there's a difference between broadcast and basic cable, even though in this day and age, usually if you have broadcast, I shouldn't say usually, but a lot of people get it through cable. So it's all like the same bundle in a lot of ways.
Well, hold on here, cowboy. And I'm not prepared to answer your question in depth as a scholarly treatise, and there's nuances to all this stuff, but in basic form, from the time that radio stations and or television stations went on the air, anything where an entity broadcast over the airwaves to the public, and even the not citizens band, but ham radios, as they used to call them, the old radio fanatics that would have radios in their garages. That's why they had to have call letters. They had to have like some type of even home license. This is CK4W5. But you needed to have a license, and gradually the entity that would oversee that became the Federal Communications Commission. And for television, especially, because they looked at TV stations in the early days, not necessarily as, well, the people who owned them looked at them as profit-making enterprises, but the goal of mankind was for them to be public services for news and entertainment, whatever. So there were things you couldn't just fucking beam people saying fuck you all the time into the goddamn people's homes where the little kiddies could watch, and you couldn't, show graphic sex or people their heads being chopped off or whatever the fuck that you might be able to get away with on modern day cable or home video. And so if you did things that were against the public interest, or however they phrased it, unacceptable to local standards, they could suspend your license for doing something or fine you. Same thing with radio stations for doing bits that went over the line.
Yeah, and it was always crazy. I'm sure it probably still is now. You don't hear about it as much in terms of the process, but it could literally be someone middle of the day watching you on a talk show, and they're like, I don't like what they said. I'm going to write to the FCC. And if they would, the FCC, if they wanted to fuck with you, they would, and they could.
Well, there was an example. Oh, what was her name? I don't want to call her name anyway. They might embarrass her even after all these years. But in Charlotte, 35 years ago, the morning radio team at a radio station that did the comedy morning radio show, right? They got a phone call. Some dipshit was trying to call their like competitor radio station to be the fifth caller to win the car or whatever. Right? He says, "Hi, am I the fifth caller to win the car?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you won the car. Come on down and get it." And did a yeah, hey, yeah, it's a beautiful car. Whatever the fuck, he yanked this guy's chain on the air because the people that were listening to the radio knew that the guy that it was a fuck up, right? But the guy went down to the goddamn dealership or wherever the other radio station, wherever it was, demanded the car. The other radio station called that radio station. He got him fired off the air.
Man.
For something that fucking...
You know, I got another example. We talked recently about, and I've had a few people write in and say, what's the real story with how LA lost the English-speaking television? I believe Greg Valentine said something over the line and that was it, but the road to get there, correct me if I'm wrong, you may know this. I believe there was a viewer of Studio Wrestling from LA with Dick Lane that started complaining to the FCC about the local promos being commercials and that they were doing too many commercials in the show and that got them in trouble. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't again quote chapter and verse, but yes, that was a thing. And it was the same. Again, there were regulations in those days. Before that was, you couldn't do an infomercial back in those days because only a set number of minutes per hour on a commercial television station could actually be commercials. You had to, and that's why you see edited versions of all those 50s sitcoms. When you see the DVD version and there's like, I've never seen that before. That used to be like, in those days, maybe 4 minutes per half hour. Now, in modern times, it's 8. But nevertheless, if the commercials went over a certain amount of time, it was against FCC regulations, and a number of wrestling territories got hit. Do you remember in?
Oh, really?
In the day. Okay, you might not know that. Just it was a little subtle thing, but in the days of TBS, the Saturday Night Show, Georgia Championship Wrestling, when they would do interviews at the desk and then would suddenly go to the 30-second promo with music behind it, the Omni with the graphics. So,
I know what you're
okay. They had to tell the top guys, when you start talking, when you start doing your promo, just talk generally about your opponent or talk about the match or whatever, but don't say anything about the Omni. Don't say anything about, and then at the end of your promo, that's when they jump in and it's going to happen at the Omni. And then they'd cut to that fucking spot, or the graphic would pop up in the middle of their promo when they turn to talk about the Omni. Then the graphic on the screen, the Omni, Sunday night, tickets available, Ticketron. Because they couldn't even make the whole goddamn, if the whole interview had the specifics of the date and the place, that was considered a commercial. So they had to make it that fine for a couple of years there on the Georgia show. It was fucking insane.
It's interesting, though, just because it is a hard line. You know, if you watch a 90-minute Memphis show, so much of that show is a commercial for Memphis that Monday night.
Jesus Christ, one segment, what might be 15 minutes on the Monday night card with guys coming out and going and things. It was just, but nobody ever complained. They might have had a problem. I don't know.
I complained when I got the 60-minute show. I said, where's all that stuff I missed?
But anyway, nevertheless, we're going to be missing a lot of stuff. Apparently, I'll just close with that because either that or, as is already happening, a bunch of people can be more people are pissed off about Kimmel than they were about Colbert, and it's starting to become a cumulative thing and a little bit obvious. So maybe they'll be able to tamp this down. But when you've got the alleged leader of the free world threatening the broadcasting entities or the talent on the broadcasting entities in the country he's supposed to be running because they're taking the piss out of him, it doesn't ever seem to end well historically.
And I think the censorship is wrong. I think people being penalized for these things, other than, I think it's fine to penalize people for them not making money or ratings or whatever, but this is bullshit. However, if it's going to happen, now's the time to remake late night TV. Let's get some real craziness in there once again. Let's get rid of all the glam and the happiness and the, hey, let's just hang out with celebrities and talk about nothingness. This is a chance, but that won't happen either.
What kind of cutting edge comedy or commentary do you think that people are going to want to get on TV now and talk about? Huh?
Hey, listen.
What do you think? Just in case they might tick somebody off.
There's only one person you have to worry about taking off. If you could take off everyone else and survive, it seems like. But, yeah, I miss the old days of late night TV.
Well, and you know who else shouldn't tick off? I'm going to let me get out of this daggum screen here because I was trying to find I'll just go from memory because there's a big news story going on here over in southern Indiana. At least we don't know that he's in Kentucky, but there is a mentally ill schizophrenic murderer on parole now missing over in southern Indiana, very close to the Louisville area. This might make some people wonder, what the fuck? I just got to tell you this real quick. A couple of days ago on the news, they put this picture up of this poor old gray-haired man he's got like thin, long, scraggly gray hair and a gray beard. He looks like a poor old fella, got to be in his 70s. And they said, we have a senior citizen is missing in southern Indiana. He's like medical situation or needs medicine or whatever the fuck they said. And you got the way that they presented it, you got the impression, oh, poor old Uncle Joe's wandered off. Hopefully somebody can take him and lead him across the street and we'll call the cops and take him home, right? He can't find his way type of thing. Come to find out the day later, they said, we have an update to this story, ladies and gentlemen. We weren't given all the facts, and apparently they had the deputy sheriff of whatever goddamn Hoot and Hollow, county over there. I don't know. Say, yeah, we should have gotten these facts out. But this senior said he didn't wander off. He's decided to go somewhere. He is on parole. He served, I think they said 20-something years served some time for a murder 20-something years ago. He's a schizophrenic. That's why he needs to be on his medicine. And they said, if you see him, don't approach him. Call the authorities. It went from please help Uncle Joe home to stay away from this son of a bitch. I mean, what the fuck? We might have needed some of that information before. If I was a person that did good deeds, what if I'd have run up on him?
You think they're going to find him?
How could you? It looks like a strong wind would blow this guy over. I don't know how he's evading the fucking dragnet. And I get, even though he's mentally ill and schizophrenic, that doesn't mean he's stupid, but he looks like, well, some of these old people are wiry. I was going to say he could be frail, but he'd have some kind of Fez tendons or something. But anyway, so I'll try to give you an update.
Oh, I thought you were going to say if you see someone. I didn't know where you were going there. Okay.
Well, no, I'm just saying I'll try to give you an update. But if anybody out there around the Kentucky, southern Indiana area sees some old gray-headed fucker walking down the side of the road, just across the street. That's what I was going to say.
I don't know it for sure, but I have a feeling he's headed towards Letcher County.
He could fit in down there from what we've heard. Might as well put everybody in, and that way they could just keep the reporters in one place and they could report on all the stories at the same time. But Brian, where they should not cross the road to get away from?
Where's that?
That is on Saturday, October 11th at noon Eastern when the big holiday sale begins at Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com. That is where they can stay right on their side of the street. Log on to your respective devices of things, folks, to JimCornette.com, and you will find my brand new book, Heroes and Friends, Pro Wrestling Remembrances, on sale. The debut of that book takes place again Saturday, October 11th. We've been talking about it here on the program for the past few weeks. Profiles, tributes, biographies, a little bit of everything, personal interaction with 12 of some of my favorite. Is that good grammar, Brian? 12 of some of my favorite people in professional wrestling, and you're going to learn a lot of history. It might not be, I'm more grammatical in the book. I write better than I talk. But also, as we've talked about, photography direct from my negatives for the first time, reproduced for the digital age. Also, photographs of or reproductions of images of merchandise and memorabilia from my vast collection in the vault, and all that stuff and more. What we haven't said, Brian, I got new news for you. The big 10, 20, 40 sale on action figures, the all Jim Cornette remaining action figures, some are sold out and always will be, but the remaining action figures, $10 off for the holidays. The tag team sets, either the Midnight Express or the Heavenly Bodies, $20 off for the holidays. And the Midnight Express 4-pack with the collector's book, the signed photo and certificate of authenticity, $40 off for the holidays. What more can a person do to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Brian? I ask you, what more?
That seems like a Merry Christmas.
And there's going to be some other new things, including another publication that we will announce next week that are going to be on sale, a couple other things that have not been featured before, but those are the big ones. But it's Saturday, October 11th at jimcornette.com, and a banner, from what I'm told by poor Hotchkiss, who has been going back and forth about details in a unrelated story that I will not go into at this time. But once he gets his flustered self back in compunction, a banner will be up on jimcornette.com in the next week or so, where you can see what this beautiful Heroes and Friends publication actually looks like, or is going to look like when you get it. So there you go.
All right.
Brian.
Yeah.
Should we continue on with programming now?
Oh, no. No, yes, of course. Of course.
Oh, boy, for a second there, my heart jumped. I was like, he wants to quit. Well, guess what they've done out in California? Guess what kind of bird don't fly, Brian? A jailbird. They finally arrested old Raja Jackson, the delinquent adult son of the former UFC champion, whatever weight division he was in, Quentin Rampage Jackson, for bashing Psycho Stu's head in that. I guess people have heard about it by now. I would normally give more history, but goddamn, I think more people have heard about this than the fucking assassination of Kennedy. So I won't give other details besides Roger Jackson beat up Psycho Stu. Everybody was up in arms. It's been a month. Nothing was done. And finally, they arrested him, but they arrested him on not only arrested him, I should say, but they arrested him on a felony. A felony. And he was in jail, I guess, till... Is California like a 24-hour deal where you can just bail out at any time? I heard he got out at 5 o'clock in the morning. Jails out here close at night and don't open that early in the morning.
It says here, it was 5:09 Pacific time. Yeah, it is 5:09 in the morning. I don't know how that happened.
Look, they must have extra special good service out there to be able... You tried to get some kind of bail or anything else around here about 3 o'clock in the morning. What the fuck? Throw a bucket of water on him.
Yeah, this is from TMZ. The update as of today, as we are recording, 5:09 a.m. Pacific time. TMZ Sports has learned that Roger Jackson was booked on a felony charge of battery with serious bodily injury. He's already bonded out, a jail official tells us.
But anyway, nevertheless, it's still an arrest and still a felony. And I'm trying to find the exact charge here because I have an article in front of me, but
What do you think about the fact that it took this long?
well, I mean, it's not like somebody robbed a bank, knocked somebody over the head to some stranger and took off. It wasn't a cut and dried thing like that. I guess they had to, well, we got to figure out what happened here, what we ought to do. And of course, then it became paperwork and going through channels. And so, yeah, in a big city, I'm not surprised. But nevertheless, this fucking guy is obviously going to have some difficulty getting out of this because he's admitted to everything they're going to charge him with on the video that he fucking shot or had shot, was cooperating with shooting. So besides, I don't know how in the world he's going to find an attorney to take his case or any kind of competent attorney to take his case. You know, he's fucked himself. And again, I don't know where Psycho Stu's head is at, because if he's going to be called to testify, and even if he says, no, I don't want to press charges, you know, it's a misunderstanding. Well, just tell us what actually happened. Well, I don't know because he knocked me out and then I woke up in the hospital. What's it?
I can't imagine a more clear-cut case of felony assault. I mean, it's on video. Everyone has seen it, even no matter what set it up. If you want to be one of these people attacking Psycho Stu for drinking before the show or trying to set up the angle or apologizing, whatever it was, it doesn't matter. The assault still happened, and it was on video, and there were witnesses, and there were people there who saw the whole thing go down, including Roger Jackson running away. So I can't imagine a more open and shut case than this. Can you?
Well, no. And that's why, you know, Rampage Jackson may be a Hall of Fame fighter, but goddamn, he's a weasel in trying to get out of shit in every other way. Since this whole thing started, he has gone through, or at least floated, laid the groundwork for every kind of goddamn legal defense. And it's one thing one day and one thing the next day. The latest stuff, remember, was that, well, I ain't spoke to him since then. You know, I'm not cutting him off forever. Here's the quote on this story. I'm not cutting him off forever. I just haven't talked to him.
Who paid the bond?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. But then he said, well, I think he shouldn't go to prison. He should go to jail, maybe do a little time or community service, go to anger management class. The first time he heard about it, the first thing he heard was, well, he had a concussion training a couple weeks ago. Well, then the guy with the can gave him a concussion. Well, wait a minute. That's fake wrestling. He's a real fighter. He shouldn't have got involved. They shouldn't have put him in that. And then he hadn't been the same since his mother got murdered. I don't even know. Then it was, well, he hadn't been doing what I tell him to do since he became an adult. Now he's trying to put some space in there. He's an adult because he knows he might have some liability. Then it's been all over the fucking page.
Yeah, I saw them blame some MMA reporter. They claimed that he was racist, and then I saw a whole bunch of people say, I read him all the time. He's not racist. Like, Rampage Jackson has taken every side of this. From, yes, he should go to, I will do whatever I can to protect him and anyone attacking him as a racist, to, I think, I could be wrong, but I believe some of the quotes I saw for him, he may be one of the people also kind of putting some of the blame on Psycho Stu.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, is that he's been in public statements. It's like the last thing that somebody said to him in a way of, well, you ought to make sure they know he's an adult, or you ought to make sure you know that this was a scripted thing and he's a fighter, or whatever legal plan they might have had at that exact moment is what he's blurted out of his mouth. or, or you can't get any on you, say he ought to do a little jail time, but not prison, or just, what? So I think this guy's a fucking idiot too, to be quite honest with you. I think he's a family of fucking idiots.
Yeah, they're lucky it's not attempted murder, quite frankly.
What I had two different, I had two different articles and I cannot find what the exact charge was. Booked on a felony charge, this says, but I can't. It was some type of felonious fucking assault with intent to, I don't know.
Felonious monk.
Fuck out of.
Yes,
I don't know. Felonious monk. Yes. I cannot find this job. Well, anyway, I'm just a small town bird.
Battery.
Lawyer.
Felony charge of battery with serious bodily injury.
Serious bodily injury. That's exactly what I just said. So see, you repeated me. And that sounds like enough to me for people to chew on for a little while. So we do wish Roger Jackson very well in his future endeavors, which include trying to find any competent lawyer that could defend this fucking open and shut case. He might as well just not even throw, but splay himself on the mercy of the court, shouldn't he?
Makes you wonder what's going to happen to a guy like that if he goes to jail. Is he going to be as tough there? Is he going to have to, who knows? For the rest of this guy's life, he's going to have to wonder about if there's a wrestler behind me ready to attack me.
Well, I know that you often think about what it would be like if somebody went to jail, Brian, but I think
I've got a few candidates. With
Raja, it's not good. If it was Rampage Jackson, I'm sure they would treat him like God, because regardless of what he might have done, unless it is something involving, children or whatever that's frowned upon in that environment, they would still think, hell, here's one of the toughest fighters ever, and here's a UFC champion, here's a big time celebrity. You wouldn't fuck with him. But isn't Raja Jackson, who beat up an unconscious guy, going to be viewed as the George Goulas of Sons of Prison and UFC, and like this fucking little prick? And let's make sure he's real welcome.
He may sound like George Goulas after they get through with him in prison.
Yeah, a couple of fucking shots to the face. I see how you'd like to lose a few of your teeth there, Raja. But I don't think that he'll have any kind of, the only reason he's a celebrity is because of this. And he's a disappointment to the celebrity that they would look up to.
Well, adios, Raja. We'll be following the trial when it happens.
Yes, we will. And when we wish you well again in your future endeavors. But you know what he's going to need to do, don't you, Brian? Old Roger Jackson, he is going to need to stock up on things that are going to make his life a little easier. Make his life looking just a little bit better, just a little more hopeful, just helping him unwind, just helping take the stress away, working on his mental wellness.
It sounds like Jim's been sampling some of the product. Keep going, Jim.
Well, I'm just trying to tell you the physical and mental wellness is what I was trying to say. He's going to need stuff that does all of that. And that's why he's stocking up right now, because he knows he's going away to the big house. He's going to be boarding with the warden, living on the bounty of the county. And he is stocking up on Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies right now, because they are formulated to work with your body, Brian, not against it. See, he was working against old Psycho Stu's body.
Well, again, we don't have any reason to suspect or know that Roger Jackson is a customer of Cornbread Hemp, and it would probably help him to have some Cornbread Hemp in his life.
Well, that's a true statement, because I don't know that he is smart enough to be a customer of Cornbread Hemp. He's getting that underground off-brand discount Temu type of CBD, probably on the street corner down there next to the elementary school. But instead, Cornbread Hemp, they're based right here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we don't have any elementary schools. Our kids are all born ready for high school. And they are based in Louisville, and they are processing pure and potent CBD because they only use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower. And whether it's stress, discomfort, or just needing a little relaxation in your life, Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are made to help you feel better. Formulated to relieve all those bad things that I talked about, and they're third-party lab tested and USDA organic to ensure safety and purity. As a matter of fact, they are USDA organic. They come from the finest cows. Cow byproduct. That's what the CBD is. Because I see that USDA organic sticker on every steak and rump roast in the Kroger meat counter there.
Rump roast.
So you know it's good. Yeah, the steaks and the rump roast. Do you ever roast a rump?
I don't think I've ever had rump roast.
Oh, for heaven's sake. You know what? You need a good flank steak.
I love flank steak. I have flank steak all the time.
Well, then you're right next to the rump roast. Folks, once again, third-party lab tested, USDA organic. It's the Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies that are the full spectrum. The watermelon, the berry, the peach. They're good for you, and they're so good. And right now, you're going to be able to save 30% on your first order. Just go over there to cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. Cornbread Hemp, of course, that's spelled like corn and bread and hemp.com/JCE. 30% off your first order. And then you can soar with the eagles instead of scratching with the chickens.
Again, very popular here at Last Manor, popular at Castle Cornette, as well as so many homes around these great states of ours. Cornbread Hemp, one more time, Jim. That promo code.
That promo quo? Well, it's cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout for 30% off your first order. And once again, it's blissful to be unstressful. Yeah, I just made that up. Well, Brian, I understand we've got some results of some polling that has been done. Now, this is not like, the minute, widespread numbers like the Nielsen ratings or a Reuters poll or something. It's not that official, but it hopefully is pretty indicative of what's going on. Can you tell us more about this?
And it's not the Pew poll either. Jim, we did a poll. We did a poll.
I was one time a pupil. Of the Pew poll. I studied it very. All right.
We did a poll for the Cult of Cornette Facebook group because I was very interested to hear what the results would be. And we got 848 votes for the question, have you already downloaded and signed up for the ESPN app?
Aha!
Because the pay-per-view, as we are recording, has not happened yet, and I still don't have the app, and I got to figure out how I'm getting it and blah, blah, blah.
And just an update for you to know that Stacy has assured me that we have the capability. We can rebuild him. We have the capability. And she has found now, because like a week ago when she looked, the WWE logo was not even on this fucking thing. But now the WWE logo is on there. So now the final step is to somehow install it on the TV in the TV room where that I can get to it. But that's where we are.
Well, again, 848 respondents to this poll where there were 4 options. Have you already downloaded and signed up for the app? Yes, no, I don't plan to, or I'm waiting for a PLE I care about. That got 1%. I'm waiting for a PLE I care about. 1% meaning...
1%.
13 votes for that.
Okay.
14% voted yes. They have already downloaded and signed up for the app. That's 114 votes.
Okay.
No, they have not already downloaded and signed up for the app is at 15%, 135 votes.
Okay.
And finally, 70% for I don't plan to, 588 votes.
Good Lord. It is not a popular move, it doesn't look like, to this thingamajig, a thingamabob that they've come up with now. That is so 588. Did you say out of 800 and what?
It was, 588, 70% out of 848 votes.
So, I mean, is our audience skewed because they've just had all they can stands and they can't stands no more? They're not the really rabid people that are going to sit down and just follow this thing wherever it goes? Or do you think this is indicative of the mainstream population, Brian?
I don't know. At a minimal, it's a microcosm of a chunk of the wrestling audience. That's why I put the option I'm waiting for a PLE I care about, because I could see someone saying, I'm not going to do it for this, but Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, absolutely, I have to. I have my friends over, whatever the argument is.
Yeah.
But I don't plan to. Not even no, I haven't downloaded it yet. I don't plan to. I think that says something, and, big matches, big stars, big promos can change things. We've seen that happen. It causes rejection to change. But the fact that this percentage of this voting body, you would have to guess, is a little bit disgusted if their answer is, I don't plan to.
Yeah. And again, it's something else that you have to keep up with now. They're making it so difficult just for people to remember where they need to go to watch the thing they want to watch. It's not even, in a lot of cases, with some people, the cost is just the goddamn inconvenience. Or, I don't want to keep track of all this shit.
Yeah, and looking through some of the comments here, a lot of them, the ones that are positive, are typically the ones, I have Hulu Live, so I already have it, said one person. I already have it through a bundle. I have different means to watch, whatever that means. That's another person here. I'll catch the highlights on YouTube. Here's one. I'll give his name, Jim Johnston. I don't think it's the famous one. I have wished TKO the best in their future endeavors.
Wow.
Not a penny more from me. I'll buy bootleg belts and shirts if I want any classic merchandise, but as far as I'm concerned, the wrestling company I grew up with went out of business the day after Mania last year.
Jeez.
That's what I'm curious. How many people have that kind of attitude that this is not my WWE? Not that you're approving of Vince or anything, but based more on the corporate actions and the prices. This is not my WWE anymore. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's just, I think there was still a connection in a lot of people's minds. Vince was a part of it, but wasn't all of it. But the fact that the McMahon family and that it was still in somewhat similar control, that I think that the fans still viewed it as, okay, it's gotten bigger, but it's still wrestling and it's wrestling people and we're wrestling fans, and it's still something we can do with the kids or just with the friends or whoever you go with, even go to a pay-per-view. Yeah, we could do that. Now it's a goddamn multi-billion-dollar conglomerate cash grab that's selling to the Saudis and they're selling out to Kansas City. They're selling to anybody that'll give them money, and they're taking as much of yours as possible. And it's working with a lot of people, but a lot of people are not real happy about it. And that's the people that know especially what it was like a few years ago when, to be quite honest, the product is hotter now for doing less than ever. And, it's great for the boys, for the talent. It's great for everybody. But there's been points in time where they were getting better shows for a lot less money. And they're the ones that like I said, it was still the connection to the old days of wrestling also, where they didn't expect this thing to be this big and cost this much and be this obvious. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. And again, it's a changing world, a changing environment for both television and wrestling. But, there aren't a lot of options. You worry more about losing wrestling fans for the future than anything else. if they really are that disgusted. And again, a hot angle changes everything. There are lots of people who said, I would never like WWE, and then Steve Austin came along. Things happen. But my question for you is the success they're having all around the world, and specifically, I guess, here in America or North America. Do you think it's because of the product they're producing right now, or are they riding the wave still of how hot things were a year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of combination of both. Once you get those people, you have to really fuck up bad to run them off. And it's new markets, and it's their, again, almost unlimited reach now as far as publicity and sponsorships and packages. See what a lot of people about running the live event don't realize is if the goddamn city of Bug Tussle, insert city here, is paying you to come to bring this entertainment event, you don't have to go out and beat the bushes for publicity anymore. You don't have to pay through the teeth for a newspaper ad.
That's built in.
You got the keys to the city.
Yeah, I actually just saw Nick Khan did an interview where he said, they have to put up posters around the city. The city has to do all these things to get them.
Yeah, and the television shows that they represent the stars of, and that they can get the cross-pollination of their talent on to promote the things and everything. To answer your question, which I can't even remember at this point how you phrased it, but it's a combination of both of those things, that they're not only riding a wave of how hot things were a couple of years ago, whatever, but they're expanding the ways that they can promote and publicize and get the word out. And it's become a thing, and they have to do less because the new people they're bringing in don't know that they're just standing there and watching fucking people talk to them for hundreds of dollars. They never saw a 2-hour wrestling show where there was goddamn mayhem and chaos and thank you for coming. We'll see you next week. So they don't have anything to compare it to. But here's one thing about their financial attitude toward, Vince was pricing for the families and they're just coming out and admitting it, blah, blah, blah. One thing that Jerry Jarrett told me the first time I was on television ever, not as a manager, but the first time I was on television ever, which is when he used me as a reason to have Jackie Fargo in a TV studio one Saturday morning. You know this, right?
Yeah.
When I presented him with the award?
Yeah, for Wrestler of the Decade.
Yes.
In what, 81?
Because I was doing the Championship Wrestling magazine, and Jerry Jarrett had me come down to present Fargo with the Wrestler of the Decade award, and then later on, Dream Machine was going to turn back heel, and Fargo's and all this other shit was going to go on, but it was a reason for him to be there. And he wanted me to introduce Fargo, and I said something about, should I say he's like the biggest box office attraction? He said, no. And think about that. Jerry Jarrett, for all everybody says about him that basically didn't like him because he didn't pay him very well, he had a master of the simplest terms of wrestling psychology. He said, don't say anything about how much he drew at the box office. Say he was the most popular, or say the fans loved him. But don't talk about how much money he drew, because then that reminds the fans that they paid a lot of money to see him. The heels brag about how much money they make from the wrestling promoter. The baby faces never mention the money they make. It's the championships they win. Think about that.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
He didn't want to remind, though. He wanted the people to be reminded how much they loved Jackie Fargo and how much he meant to them, not how much they paid to see him.
I don't know why it reminds me of it, because it's not a straight line, but his insistence that the Rock and Roll Express's music, Rock and Roll is King by ELO, be edited to take out the line about the land of fantasy. I guess he was really big on just words or thoughts or concepts like that triggering the wrong thought in the fan.
Yes, he knew that it was all subliminal shit that had an effect on you over a period of time. Unless it was just the worst thing you ever saw, it wasn't going to kill something instantly. But even the best thing that you ever saw could be diminished by little subliminal things over time that make you think negatively about it. So the line in the song was, "Come along with me to a land of make-believe. Whamma lamma bama, rock and roll is king." He had the land of make-believe line edited out when they played it on television. And, but that's, again, it was little simple things. And he also realized that fans would overlook major either visual disparities in what they'd seen. Ooh, did that look too good? Or they would overlook almost anything if a guy or an issue was over. So that was the most important thing. If Steve Austin's kicks in the corner, guy's over, they don't see it. If the issue's over, they don't see potentially things that accidentally happen along the way. It's the basics and what effect some of these things have cumulatively, subliminally on their unconscious. Dr. Sigmund Freud Jarrett. Oh boy, what do you think Dr. Sigmund Freud Jarrett, if he was alive today, would think of AEW, Brian?
Again, if you're watching it expecting good booking, you're out of luck. If you're watching it for good wrestling matches, it depends what kind of wrestling you like.
Well, yeah, I think you're still out of luck. It's just that some of this may appeal to the audience who likes that type of thing. What makes you salivate the idea of sitting down and watching a 6-hour compilation of car wreck videos? What would whet your appetite for that more than sitting down and watching 3 hours of car wrecks? That gets you in the mood to watch 6 more hours of it.
Well, technically, I guess it would be 3.5 hours, right? Or a little bit more, because they also had the preview show for the pay-per-view at the end of the night, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true, but I tapped out. But it was a September to remember. I can't remember the last time I wanted something to be over so badly. But you know what September to remember is a play on in wrestling, don't you, Brian?
Well, for Tony Khan, I thought it would be November to remember the ECW pay-per-view, or a big event.
Well, yes. And do you know where they got November to remember? Who originally, as relates to pro wrestling, came up with the concept or the tagline or the advertising slogan, November to remember?
Who?
Bob Caudle.
Really?
Bob Caudle came up with it in 1989. And we didn't do a video to November Rain for it or anything, because November Rain had not been produced yet. But this was, Flair was the booker. This was late September, early October, so I had just joined the creative team. But here's something about the ratings. It'll be more interesting probably than the AEW ratings. They were certainly more numerous back then. Now, again, we're used to the instant ratings and the instant quarter hours and minute by minute, and this age group and these are the people that watched with psoriasis. They break it all down. But those days, as we've talked about before in various ways, the ratings were more primitive. It wasn't computerized. It took longer or whatever. Well, one of the other ways it was different was, Brian, you know that advertisers pay the rates that the networks would set or the stations would set based on the ratings of the television programs, right?
Right.
Well, it was most important in those days. Do you remember a phrase? It's probably been so long, a sweeps month. You
Oh,
remember that terminology?
of course. And that was a big time as a WWF fan growing up because when it was sweeps time, you actually got a couple main event matches for a few weeks on the show.
Okay, well, there you go. Thank you very much for leading into this because this was the 1989 Turner Broadcasting had bought Crockett. Dusty just booked the shows from week to week, and you had main events when you needed main events, and you know the drill. And people have seen the footage of the main events they had in the TBS studio or the matches they'd tape on the Crockett tours and the Bash or whatever. But in those days, it was normal television not to have a competitive match. Like really, it was all mostly job guys and squash matches. And main event matches on TV were still, as you mentioned, kind of a novelty. So as we were sitting there in one of the meetings somewhere with her, the information was conveyed to me that what the sweeps months back then were I think it was November, February, and May. Those were the months that the networks would schedule, like if they had a wedding on a sitcom or if they had some character was going to get killed on a drama show or whatever.
A very special Too Close for Comfort.
There you go. Because the ratings that they got for those specific months would determine the advertising rates for the next whatever period. So they tried to load the shows up, right? As a work in television. So they wanted us to do something like that for November. It was sweeps month. So I sat down with the talent roster and to take my mind off being on the fucking plane one day and figured out a way that we could have for every one of our TVs in November, the Saturday night show, the Sunday night show. Was the Power Hour a thing yet? If it was, the Friday night show and both the syndicated shows for the month of November would each have a different competitive match involving talent on the full-time roster without giving away anything that we were trying to currently sell in the arenas. And then I pitched it to Flair and Kevin Sullivan. I said, here, this way we can advertise through the whole month. We're having a main event on every show. Okay, great. So we go into one of the production meetings and tell the announcers and, the other people involved in production what we're planning on doing. And Bob Caudle was sitting there. And it's so simple, it's genius. But he had the old time broadcasting background where you did the stand-up commercials for soap in the middle of the program, right? And he said, we can say it's going to be a November to remember. And then boom, that's it. That's what we called it. So Bob Caudle, not Paul Heyman, is responsible for the phrase November to remember. Do you remember that November better than this September?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Do you remember the 21st day of September? Because this was on the 17th. It was my birthday. They decided to give us an extra hour of this indie level dreck. Dreck is a word that's not used often enough, Brian Lass. What do you think?
That wasn't a question. I agree. I don't hear dreck used a lot. I don't hear that really ever. No.
Well, the other question was that November in 1989 better than this September on
God,
AEW?
Yes. Oh, God, yes. Of course, unfortunately, following this period of time was Jim Herd's 1990 to forget. But yes, November to Remember was very good.
1990 for amnesia. All right. So it was AEW September to Remember. The graphic was London, Canada. Not London, Ontario, London, Canada. Isn't that like saying Philadelphia, United States?
I think so.
Then why did they do that?
Tony Khan.
They're in the goddamn town. They can't spell the goddamn town right or describe the goddamn town they're in. God damn it. All righty. So at least they were back in a building. They came out of the closet in Philadelphia and they're back in an actual building and had some level of audience participation there.
Yeah, look good. After seeing Philadelphia for the last month or whatever, 3 weeks, whatever it was, look good.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that's had, truth be told, to try to give them some benefit of the doubt and break in the whole thing. Give me a break. That's been part of the ratings thing because people just look at it, go, well, nothing fucking big is going to happen here. You know, it's not like they're going to resurrect the ghost of Sabu. Well, maybe they might in the ECW arena. Poor analogy. But they led this thing off with the contract signing between our ill-humored world champion Adam Page and his younger everyday opponent Kyle Felcher, who looks at, what was it, Benjamin Button, where suddenly he's shrinking. I don't even mean he's shrinking physically. I mean, he's getting younger and they're doing things to him that make him look more unintimidating every day. And is it just me? Brian, the glasses, and normally I like guys to wear suits and look like stars, Lashley and Benjamin, whatever. And this guy's got a nice physique when you see him in tights, but the nerd glasses, the shoes with no socks, the no hair, the 12-year-old face, the suit makes him look like he's on the high school debate team, doesn't it?
I don't think he looks as young as you're making it sound. I actually thought he carried himself really well at the scrum I saw a little while back. Thought he could have been a good representative for AEW, but of course he's a heel, although the babyface here really seems to like him, or at least want the best out of him, and is really rooting for him. So it kind of made me think maybe he is a babyface. I really don't know.
That's another thing. Again, they're stuck on
every promo. Every fucking Adam Page promo is the same shit.
Well, and the whole television show is stuck on repeat and rewind as far as indie wrestling tropes. And in this thing with Page is, I want you at your best. I see. I'll quote him here in a second, but it's the same kind of like 5 indie things that everybody always does that is revolving through this whole show. But that's the thing with Page, with the same delivery that he always had, where it's glorious verbiage that he's memorized with the growly voice, and he's trying to put a ton of thespianism in the thing. I want you to do this on your own, Kyle. I see your potential. The entire roster could look to you to carry the company into the future, but you have to be worthy. That's a quote. I wrote, what is this shit?
This guy just got the belt.
And besides that, for an angle in a world title match between a fucking... Page then reveals that there's a stipulation in the contract he's about to sign that if any other member of the Don Callis family gets involved, then not only is Kyle disqualified, but he also loses the TNT title. And I'm like, I thought the heels were supposed to surprise the babyface with the hidden stipulations.
Exactly.
And then they give Kyle a chance to respond. And now, in addition to the visual presentation that I mentioned to you a little bit earlier, he has a voice that sounds like a cross between Alvin the Chipmunk and Claude Worthington Smythe. Is it just up here like that at the men's? And the men's world title. He's saying the men's world title now. It's like it's contagious with anybody that's around Page that has to say the men's world title. And with some of these men, there could be a doubt as to which world title they're going for, but it's just so oddly worded. And then so Kyle signs and Page hesitates. I've been in your shoes. But the morning after All Out, it's going to crush you. And then he does another stagey, growly, rehearsed statement, trying and failing to be an actor. And he says, he does the same thing. You know, I think I know who you are, but Kyle, after you lose, but at All Out and in the days and years to follow, do not disappoint me. Like, you're a fine young lad. I'm going to beat you, but then don't disappoint. What kind of goddamn animosity is this shit supposed to fucking engender?
It's horrible.
Then Kyle will not stop talking. He's got to respond again. I wrote, they won't quit. And the heel proceeds to say, I'm a man of my word. There'll be no interference. I'm leaving the ring Saturday as champion. And tonight, I'm going to leave you bloody and unable to walk. So I'll just fuck you up tonight so that I don't have to have anybody interfere. But the heel promises that he won't cheat, and at the same time promises that he's going to fuck him up in an illegal fashion. But while the babyface is telling the heel that he thinks he's going to be the guy to lead the company one day. Can you see Flair and Dusty doing this?
If you had never watched AEW before and watched this and Don Callis wasn't there, you would think Kyle Fletcher was the babyface and Adam Page was the heel. Just a condescending prick heel.
Yes. Yes.
And it's every promo with him. There are people who think he's like the best promo in wrestling or one of them. He speaks in an unrealistic way. He uses words that he absolutely does not use in everyday conversation, and it sounds fake. And then the subtext of everything around it, the actual tone and theme of what he's saying, if you listen to it, he talks you out of caring, and it doesn't even make sense. None of it makes sense. This is horrible booking. It doesn't do anyone any favors, and Kyle Fletcher is coming across to me like the babyface.
The babyface,
the young, squeaky-voiced babyface.
Yeah, with bad fashion sense, but he'll grow up and learn how to dress. That's the most horrible thing you can accuse him of right now. No, again, think the other guy, the babyface, burned somebody's house down 6 months ago. So what the fuck? They have no goddamn thought of what might happen in the future when people have to buy shit coming out of these foolish mouths.
Yeah, Hangman Adam Page sucks. Sorry to anyone who is a fan of his for some reason, but...
Sorry to insult anyone who's a fan of the Hangman. Or somebody has called him on the internet the Hangmam.
I did not see that.
Hangman, that's even better than hangnail. I think I'm going to switch to that if it's not copyrighted. We'll have a search done on that. You know what, Brian, to be perfectly honest with you, I think young Kyle, since he's obviously not getting any coaching or training here, while he's still a young man in full possession of his faculties, with a bright future ahead of him and a long time to work hard and achieve his dreams, he ought to get out of wrestling and start his own online business. Don't you think?
Well, it depends.
He could sell those ugly shoes he wears, and he could sell those weird looking suits that he wears, and he could sell those ugly haircuts that he wears and those nerdy glasses that he wears. But he could sell them all on the internet where nobody had to look at him.
Well, he may run out of inventory quickly doing that, but for Mr. and Mrs. America out there listening to the show right now who have their business or want to start their business and need a little help online, who want to be in the biggest store online, want to have distribution and accessibility and everything else,
yes,
there's one place to go to. They partner with us, and they can partner with the listeners, our friends at Shopify.
That's right, because they're nothing but a bunch of whores, and they will go along with anybody. It doesn't matter who they are, as long as they've got a good idea and a big opportunity to make money. That big, throbbing opportunity.
No, that doesn't change anything. They are not whores. If anything, they would be a pimp that is friends with you, the pimp. It is a fellow pimp willing to help you out and give you a gentle push along the way to make sure your business whatever business that may be.
What are you talking about? How many pimps do you know? Pimps don't like other pimps. their competition. This is strictly a pimp whore relationship.
No.
And you are the whore, ladies and gentlemen, because you've got the product.
Oh, no, they're the whore.
And Shopify is the pimp.
You've accused everyone of being a whore in this equation so far.
Well, no. Well, if you're, you can do what you want in your spare time. Let me get back to these whores and these pimps.
No, they're not
These
whores
folks at Shopify
pimps.
Are going to take your product or your service and they are going to make all kinds of money with it. They're going to give you most of it. And they're going to make you so much money that much like an old-fashioned wrestling promoter, even if you think you ought to make more, you're not going to complain because, boy, howdy, you're making money, ka-ching. Shopify, right there, is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. They can help you set up your platform, your website. They can give you a marketing team that's going to be behind you out there pimping out your services and your products. You're going to be spreading yourself all over town.
Metaphorically speaking, of course.
You're going to be metaphorically spread wide, folks. Accelerate your content creation far and wide, by the way. Shopify is packed with helpful tools that write product descriptions and page headlines and enhance your candid photography.
Yeah, let's focus.
And then there's that purple button that everybody wants to find.
Once again, let's focus on what they can do for you and how they can help you. They've helped us with our store on ArcadianVanguard.com is what it is. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, don't fall for any false imitators. Don't go for this. You only want this.
That's right. Ka-ching goes the strings of your pocketbook or purse or wallet or carrying bag or fanny pack or whatever you put your money in. It's going to be bursting at the seams when you team up with Shopify. And all you got to do is just be ready to put out, ladies and gentlemen. But you're only going to have to put out $1 a month at the start because you can sign up right now for a $1 a month trial period at Shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE. You can get a $1 a month trial period so that they can show you how they can pimp you out. And you will make ka-ching. There it is.
I apologize.
You'll make that. Well, see, you got to be right on the button. See, it's that simple. Shopify, cha-ching.com.
No, it's not cha-ching.com. Don't say that.
Oh, Shopify.com/JCE, cha-ching.
Cha-ching.
Yes, we're cha-chinging now.
Again, they're partners with us. They're going to be partners with you. We're going to get through this, ladies and gentlemen. We will get through this. Shopify.com/JCE.
I'm through it right now. How about you? Let's get back to, yes, there we go. We'll get back to the action. Did you watch any of the match between Dick the Boozer and poor old Roderick Strong?
I did, thinking you would review it. It was a different kind of match just because now we're dealing with Marina Shafir's husband in there with Moxley, so I was very curious how this would go. I thought, I don't know if physical is the right word, Moxley took more from Roderick Strong than I thought he would, but then it had just turned right back into everything else we hate with the Death Riders.
Well, yeah, well, and that's Roddy's strengths are he's a physical guy, and he doesn't mind laying shit in or guys laying shit in with him, and he always prided himself on his physical conditioning, his cardio. You can't blow him up. He was perfect for the Ring of Honor product of in-ring of 2010, 11, 12-ish, whatever the fuck, and on. He's never been able to be a fireball promo. Let's just say that. That's his biggest drawback. But, you know, he'll make you fight for shit in the ring, and you can't wear him out, and it's not easy to physically intimidate. Plus, for good and bad, his wife is in Moxley's group, so But the point is that now that everybody's smart, they booked Moxley to wrestle the husband of the woman that's been trailing him around for the last 9 months. And then they beat the piss out of each other. But the position that Roddy's been put in this company since the start, I would not have booked him to go 15 fucking minutes because, again, whether it's a good match or not, now you're just talking about if you're going to use Moxley on top, Roderick Strong, who never beats anybody and has been used as a comedy figure, comes closer than most people to beating the shit out of him. You see where I'm going with this? I have to apply it to the people I don't like as well as the people I do.
Yeah, Moxley took more from him than he does almost anyone, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And then, of course, towards the end, they got in the ring and started trading blows like every fucking Moxley match. Well,
yeah, of course, because that's what he does. And then Moxley choked him out after about 15 minutes. So when the heel wins and just chokes a fucking babyface out, it's not like you get a lot of heat. And that's where their indie-mindedness. They think it helped Roddy because he had a great match with this guy. It doesn't help Roddy because the booking has to help Roddy. Having a great match against people and losing makes you a loser if you do it all the time, which is what he does. And it doesn't help Moxley because if a guy who loses all the time, if it takes Moxley 15 minutes to beat him and it's all he can do, then what the fuck does that say for Moxley? They can't fucking figure it out.
So weird dynamic, though, just the idea that I watched a lot of it on mute, so I don't know what the commentators were saying because I hate the commentators. And they didn't get rid of Shiavone. They just added Shiavone. It's now just like a rotating group of these people.
Well, and I thought they might have given Tony a little break because is that just me? Because I've known him for 40 years. I don't sound as squeaky as I used to when I was 25 or whatever. But Tony's voice sounds like it's weak, it's fading, something's happening. And I worry about him at his age. I thought they were giving him a little rest, but now he's in the ring, doing the in-rings and all the various zabadas and, as you said, rotating around to the hot seat.
Someone's got to blow Tony Khan. Metaphorically speaking.
Speaking of Tony Khan blowing something, did you see hear, I should say, the clip in the trailer when MJF burst into Tony Khan's trailer office and was reading him the riot act and ranting at him about he didn't want to have the thumbtack and barbed wire table hypodermic needle fucking match with Mark Briscoe? Or did you skip over that because you didn't understand why they had a static shot of a trailer door for a minute and a half?
I saw it. I thought it was embarrassingly bad. Tony Khan should not, even vocally, be doing anything because he couldn't pull it off. I didn't believe him. And because of that, you don't believe anything the other guy's saying. So now it's just two friends smiling at each other while they record audio.
Well, they're having this just violent argument right after they were hugging at the wedding. But besides that, it was so blatantly scripted because it wasn't a real argument. It was not in any way realistic, not only the performance between the two individuals, but also why could we hear it? For the people who didn't see this, and I'm sure there are many, you see a camera shot of MJF in the back somewhere going into Tony Khan's big dressing trailer, which I guess they have for all of the stars. And he slams the door behind him and it says Tony Khan on the sign on the door. But MJF is mic'd or the room is mic'd and you can hear clearly on tape, even though the camera is just shooting this fucking door for a minute and a half. You can hear clearly for television the argument that they're having. Who was mic'd? If MJF was, because he didn't say to the cameraman, like, come on, let's go. There was just a shot of him storming in that a cameraman was catching. Why would he go in there and have an argument that he was going to lose and come out mad about while he's got a microphone on?
Yeah, by the way, this is the same promoter that was afraid for his life when CM Punk was choking out Jack Perry. Not him. Here he is. He's bowling up at MJF.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's telling MJF, you just calm down there, son. But was that why Tony wasn't worried? Because he has a microphone to record everything in his trailer, so he's got evidence. Well,
I thought this was embarrassing. I really, really didn't like this.
So speaking of embarrassing, well, go ahead.
No, I just don't understand the point. I don't understand the philosophy behind doing stuff like this and then having it in the can long enough for someone to see it and go, this is not good. People are going to laugh at us.
Well, but there's another parallel here to real life events. Can anybody tell the boss that he's not any good? If it was his idea, can they tell him it was a stupid idea? How? Or they're just going to air it with no explanation. Oh, here's something happening in the back. We can hear every word. Oh, golly.
Yeah, no, I just saw some stupid quote going around from Tony Schiavone. It was like, for everyone who says, he can't book, why don't you try booking? Why don't you do it? It's like,
I have.
Yeah, just about every booker that's still alive thinks Tony's bad at it, and all the fans who think they're smart enough to be bookers think he's bad at it. But he doesn't pay us, to be fair, so maybe we would change our opinion if he was giving us that Schiavone money.
Oh, that big sweet Schiavone check every week. I don't know. All right. Anyway, let's move along. We got to get through the entire month of September. That's how long it seemed like this program lasted. Bobby Lashley versus Tia Leone. This kind of loosely fit the definition of clash of styles because they both have the same one, except Leone's a little greener at it. But they're two giant guys that punched and kicked, that don't take bumps, that shouldn't be taking bumps, that it was not a smooth exchange of ideas in the ring. And that's why both of these guys look best, work best when it's someone of a different but complementary style, but also different but complementary physique. They don't have to be 160 pounds, but it's two bulls button heads, and one of the bulls is in no way, shape, or form over. So then it just kind of became blah. The people are chanting Lashley now that they're baby faces. Why not? But the people are chanting Lashley. The Hurt Syndicate is still over. But now they're trying to manufacture opponents for him, build opponents for him, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is wrestling. You're supposed to do that. But there's nobody competent or qualified or suitable for the fucking role. And they're trying with this guy, and this is too early for this guy. I mean, for forever. And that's a very long time. Maybe too early, but we don't know. But right now, the way that they presented him so far is the two stooges that never really do anything important, of the whiny ass fucking little heel that doesn't matter. Have I mischaracterized this?
No, I guess these are guys the Hurt Syndicate are okay with working with. That's step one. The problem is Ricochet, for all of his faults, was a WWE star. And he still has a little bit of mojo that comes with that. These other guys aren't rookies. They're not new. They've been around for a while. They've been on AEW for a while, never used right. It'd be one thing if they just showed up and were being booked like this. They've been on this show. They were part of the a stable. I mean, they've been around. Yeah. I don't know if people are really getting into it. I'm not. But there's a lot of things on this show I'm not. It's not like this is unique.
Well, the one thing they got into was after Lashley had speared him on the floor and got a big pop, and then MVP came over and just punched the shit out of Ricochet, and the people started chanting MVP, MVP. And then Benjamin super kicked old Bishop, and they did a couple of false finishes, and then they did the deal where Lashley got the hurt lock, and Leone kicked off the buckle, but Bobby kept it, and the referee called for the bells, so wasn't really an exciting finish to save the non-exciting match. And then the Hurt Syndicate beat up the heels, and the fans chanted for them. So they're having the 6-man tag this weekend, right? One would think that Ricochet and company are then going to win the 6-man tag because I don't know why they're having it now, to be honest with you, because they just beat up the heels and Ricochet. And MVP beat him up too. So why are we having the match now this weekend? That's not rhetorical.
I can't answer that for you. Again, we still don't understand why the MJF thing ended the way it did. And then the tag title run ended the way it did. And now this, I don't have any answers for you.
The only reason I can think of even the Hurt Syndicate wouldn't want to beat up the heels on free TV before they were beating the heels on pay-per-view, unless they ain't beating the heels on pay-per-view. But then if they beat the heels up on free TV before the pay-per-view, nobody wants to see the pay-per-view. So once again, they've stuck themselves in a corner somewhere.
But who wrestled Shelton last week? Was it Ricochet? Because they beat Shelton, right?
Yes. It took everything Shelton knew not to fucking make it look completely phony that he wasn't just beating that little midget. So whatever the odds are, I think put your money on Ricochet and the Two Stooges to win the 6-man. I don't understand what's going on here. Okie dokie, Brian. It was time now. They were in Ontario. They weren't in Toronto yet, but it's still the same province. So you knew Edge and Christian had to be there. They're going to be popular. They're hometown heroes coming back, making good home province heroes. What are they doing with the build of this match? Well, now they've almost sidelined poor Dax. We'll get to that in a minute. But I don't understand how, if this is, again, the point you made the other day, and even more so because this isn't a husband and his wife against a husband and his wife. Well, we don't know. We're not trying to pry on people's personal relationships. But if they're this pissed at each other and they're the friends that betrayed Edge and stabbed him in the back, and he's reunited with his old friend who's still a prick and an asshole, whatever the fuck, do they have to stand there and talk to each other for 20 minutes? And then get in a fight instead of just... And Tony Schiavone. What was that they used to call the hairstyle of fucking business in the front and party in the back? He had a jacket and tie on top and baggy pants and tennis shoes on the bottom. Did he not realize we were going to see his feet when he got in the ring?
Or he's just given up.
Or he's just given up. Or maybe he hadn't been taking his medication, and we need to watch out to see if Tony Schiavone wanders off from the shoots these days. But the story to cover it, there was going to be heavy fines if there was a fight between these people. Stokely said it was going to be $100,000 a piece to touch either Dax or Cash, and $500,000 for him.
Why?
And the match would be canceled. Why? Yeah, exactly. Why?
How? What?
There's a motherfucker in the next segment of some of these shows trying to pour bleach down somebody's fucking throat, or goddamn running them over with a vehicle, but we can't fight in the promo or we'll fine you $500,000. It just doesn't. It's all bad indie ideas that they've seen wrestling in the past and somehow don't understand the context, and they don't understand how to in any way make it believable or plausible. And because there's no quality control over this show, and there's a goddamn major issue with attention deficit disorder, they just do shit in every segment that just doesn't make sense from week to week, month to month, and year to year over other things they do in similar situations. Was that succinct enough for you?
Very much.
When Cash started his promo was 16 years ago, I met you for the first time. I knew this was going to go a while. But he had some oomph. He had some oomph. He got to his point. Dax started talking. And most of the promo was to the fans about how great they were instead of Edge and Christian about how great they were. Did you notice that?
Yep. Yep, I noticed that.
He couldn't even disguise it, that everything he'd come up with to say about how great they were to Edge and Christian was really his defense to the fucking fans. And here's another thing we did for you people. And he went to the point where he was looking at them as there was Edge and Christian standing over there and Dax was addressing the stands. So, well, at least he wasn't down in their face personally where one of them might have fucking slapped him. Jesus. So then Edge snatched the mic away from Dax and actually picked up the energy. And I know you're not a fan, and I have not been a fan of some things of recent years, but he can cut a promo with some fucking energy at least. And he got the people with it because it sounded like he meant it, and he had the right inflections and paused every once in a while in the right place and didn't fuck up punchlines or mispronounce words or whatever the rest of this fucking crew does on a regular basis. And then, of course, Christian takes the microphone and says, well, $100,000 isn't anything to me because I'm rich. So when he punched Dax in the face and apparently broke his fucking nose. For real. Because they get in a big fight and security runs in and everybody gave security a bunch of their finishes. And Dax is out on the floor and his nose is just gushing blood. And now he's already made the announcement, I'm gonna wrestle. I'm gonna be in the match. But he broke his nose with the first fucking punch. And these are the professionals, the experienced veterans. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I wasn't sure, I mean, it looked like what it looked like, but I was still like, let me see what exactly cut him. And he was standing there at the very end, and you just see the blood pouring out of his nose. Like, oh, okay, it was a broken nose.
There was, I don't know if it was cut on the bridge or whatever, maybe, but the blood was coming out of his nose. He broke his nose. And I managed Bobby Eaton for 7 straight years. How many punches do you think Bobby Eaton threw working over 300 times a year?
Oh, wow.
For 7 years?
Thousands.
I don't know that he ever, I can't remember. It did not happen that he ever busted anybody open or swelled anybody up or gave anybody a fat lip. Not with a punch. Now he bulldogged Tommy Rogers on that table and fucked him up a little bit. But point being, what the fuck? You just stand every 20 minutes, you can throw one punch, you break the guy's nose. Well, we wish them all well in their endeavors on tomorrow. I got a great couple of days coming up. I got to watch 9 hours of wrestling, talk to you about it, and then go get teeth pulled.
What a weird build. It still doesn't make sense. I don't understand why they did the fan thing. When they came out with the security, I wasn't sure. Are they coming out with security from the fans or from Christian Sirius because of the thing they did last week? Or are they coming out for Christian and Edge? And they didn't seem too worried about Christian and Edge. They seem more concerned about the fans.
Yeah. Well, and also, besides the threat of the heavy fines, they had to send 12 indie wrestlers out there dressed in black security shirts so that they could take a bunch of bumps. I wish they'd get some of those real fucking either like rent-a-cops, or back in the day we had the Andy Frayne security ushers or whatever the fuck. Some pot-bellied fuck with a mustache from lower Pittsburgh, and they'd try to give him a fucking bump. But all these indie guys look the same. Every single one of them.
What do you think of that line, though? I'm rich and just doing it. Does that work, you think?
Well, for the people who were already there, they
I'll blow
liked
off this ridiculous fine.
Well, yes, that's the thing is for the people that were there that had already laughed at the idea that it was that much. Well, at least he had a cute response to that horseshit. But $100,000, $500,000 for Stokely, for fucks. Even the smart fans who know that the guys make a lot of money don't believe that, much less the average person on the street is going, what the fuck? $100,000 bullshit. I had to wash that down. Did you see who faced the Hardley Boys in their contest?
I did. Now I'm trying to remember who it was, but I did watch the match, of course.
Well, of course. Well, good. I didn't, but I saw who the opponent was, or one of them, both of them. Austin Gunn. Where's Colton?
Oh, that's right.
Is he hurt?
Yeah, I believe he got hurt last time we saw him.
Okay, 3-4 years ago, I said the Guns. They're your tag team of the future. What a great bump and heel team. Now, get them a couple of 3 years of experience. What the fuck has happened now? And his partner was Juice Robinson against Maddie and Nikki. Jesus Christ, Juice was hurt forever, came back and they had shorn him of his locks, but he's grown his beard back, thank God. But what the fuck? This guy is different. He's a gimmick. You can push him. He can work. He can talk. He's got a weird aura. And now he's become a job guy and a babyface job guy for the fucking Cucamonga kids. And where is Jay White? Not that I'm anxious to see him again because I didn't particularly like him, but he and Juice were a good heel tag team.
He's hurt
if
too.
If Juice had done the talking and they had both worked.
Yeah, he's hurt too. That's why he's not there, just like Colton Gunn.
So right there you have half of two of what could be main event level heel tag teams in this company are now babyface job guys for a team that's never been deader. As in, they should both be in Kelsey's jockstrap. And the Hardley Boys won. I have no other thoughts on that match. Would you like to weigh in, or should we continue on?
No, I mean, they're still doing the whole comedy thing. This time they bribed the pyro guy to give them a full entrance.
Well, yeah, cool, because now they're rags to riches because they got $500,000 in that bullshit fucking 12-man tag or whatever last week, and they're giving it away to everybody to buy their credibility back.
Yeah, it's that whole Duke Brothers thing where you get handed the money, you're like, we're back. What do you mean you're back? You didn't get that much money.
Well, speaking of stupid shit, all right. How about this? Just speaking of nothing in general, this is what the next match was. Nothing in general. Poor old Rigor Mortis. Now, they're featuring him on every TV show because I guess he is entwined or intertwined or combined with Mercedes Moon, right? That's what we're hearing.
I believe that they are a couple. I don't know who carries whose bags, but they are a couple.
Couple of what? We don't know. But the problem is they're featuring him on every TV, but they're beating him on every TV. Mascara Dorada. He was introduced at 167 pounds. Now, whether you like poor old Frank Mortis or not, Frank the lawyer to his friends. He's a big, fearsome looking fuck. He's 200 and whatever pounds. They bring him out and have him do a job to this little teeny tiny fellow who beat him clean, the 160-pound guy, because they've got a three-way coming up with, and here comes Don Fallis leading our friend Okada. He had to wake him up and get him off the couch to walk out here. They confront Mascara Dorada, and then suddenly Take a Shit's music plays because Take is a member of Don's family also, but he comes out and stares at old Oblada. The two family members are staring at each other because here's another thing. Tony Khan loves it, like when on the indies, people stare at each other. And then Mascara dove off the top rope and Take Shit sidestepped it and he wiped out Okada with the crossbody. And then he got up and pointed a finger at Take and they stared at each other while Oblada considered himself lucky and just laid there like he usually does. What the fuck? It's everything. Every match has to lead in the same shit as interaction of some kind with whoever has a match the next day. And there's only so many ways you can do it and so many times you can do it, and they've exhausted both. Out of Brian again, was this pretty goddamn flat?
Yeah, the fans weren't as up for this as they had been for previous things on the show. This is the kind of thing that Tony Khan likes. This is the kind of thing that Tony Khan's going to put on this show, and I don't know if it works.
Did you enjoy Tony Storm's moment in the spotlight? More like searchlight. At this point, somebody ought to be looking for her that's escaped from a home. It's Tony Storm doing her promos, yet there is a talent to this, and it's funny, but it's like a Shakespearean reading of a dirty limerick. And it just, the whore you all adore, the skank you want to spank. I think the people, they like to listen and laugh at it. Does it sell tickets? Is it so preposterous that you just want to see her come out and talk? Is there any reason to have matches? Does this help the matches? All these questions I'm asking.
You know, I'm not a fan of the gimmick on wrestling, but she's very talented. The fans there love her. She is the biggest female star in AEW. In a way, I kind of thought this worked just because if they're going to be in a world where she does all this stuff and it's in black and white, all that shit, these other two girls coming out to interrupt in the middle of it is kind of the only way to do it, I guess.
Well, but again, the spotlight is on her and suddenly Jamie Hayter appears in the spotlight, dressed like Ronald McDonald's sister. And she recites lines to Tony. And then Chris Statlander appears in the spotlight on the other side, and she recites some lines to them. And then Tony says, well, trim your bushes, bitches. We're going all out. And then Thekla's music plays, and she comes running out with referees and basically chases all the other three off. And because it was time for Thekla's match, and they were done, so it looked like Thekla chased Tony Storm, Statlander, and Jamie Hayter off. But nevertheless, that's what I'm saying is Tony Storm, the fans that like AEW, they like silly, funny wrestling. They don't want to take shit seriously. They can see through all this anyway, and they don't care. So would it be easier just to have her come out and do the interviews? Do we have to have the matches? Do the matches matter? They just want to laugh at her promos, don't they?
They want to play along. They want to play along with the world that she lives in. You know, kind of like a Orange Cassidy or a Grizzly Redwood or any other thing that indie fans find cute and they get into, and then people who aren't indie fans see it and go, what is this? Explain this to me. Now, Tony Storm may be the best of them all, but it is what it is.
Well, we're on the downhill slide now, folks. Don't worry. Next up was the no-holds-barred match with Thekla versus Queen Waiata, who came out carrying a garbage can, which was very symbolic for this television program. Almost 10 o'clock, and that's what we need, a girls' garbage match. And, of course, they started on the floor, and they pulled out the chairs, and I skipped ahead to when it was over. And Thekla, to the surprise of no one, won the match. But then she got on the microphone and was screaming at Tony Storm. And Tony Storm hit the ring and double-legged her and got on top of her. And Tony Storm punched her own left hand with her own right hand over and over. It's like they don't even pretend. They don't think that there's a television camera there. They think, well, the people in the cheap seats won't be able to tell. The fucking camera there. Then here came Jamie Hayter and Statlander, and they fought, and Julia Hart came out, and Blue Sky, and Wheeler Yuta and Marina Schaefer came out and did nothing and then turned around and left. I was just wondering if they thought that it was their brawl when it was scheduled to be the next brawl. That was just completely useless. And then Statlander walked out, and Thekla and the two heels with her beat up Tony Storm, but Storm made her own comeback, and the heels bailed out, but Jamie Hayter came from behind Tony Storm and drew back and was going to punch her, but Tony Storm saw her, so she stopped, and they yelled and cussed at each other. What a fucking mess.
That AEW women's division.
I have to loosen my headphones just a bit. My head hurts. Moving along, Pip Sabian and Dino Douche wrestled Hong Kong Phooey and Kevin Knight, who were announced at a total weight of 380 pounds. I think that's if Spitball's got rocks in his pockets. And they did the thing where Pip Sabian, for some reason, is still berating Dino and slapping him around. We don't know what the reason is. It's just inexplicable. And so finally, Dino short-armed the tag, dropped off the apron, and Phooey beat Pip with a Phooey kick. You know that spinning Phooey kick he does?
Yeah.
Did you like Darby Allen defending himself and why he had to climb the mountain when he had to sit down with Bryan Danielson there?
No, and this is right around the point in time in the show where I kind of went exclusively to mute.
Yeah.
Because there were other things happening in the world and on other monitors here. But I saw this and, again, it's AEW has a very unique way of getting their personalities and characters over to the fans that are already there.
Well, after they talked about Darby climbing the mountain, he said he didn't know if he was ready for Moxley. It's always good to have a babyface that's really sure of himself. But there's something going on here because he told Danielson, don't interfere. Darby's worried that Danielson will get hurt. Don't help me out. I don't want you to get hurt. So basically the babyface is saying, not only do I not know that I can beat this babyface or this heel or not, but I'm hoping that my friend won't help me because he might get hurt too. And then Danielson promised, but then he said, you got to promise me you're going to do something or you'll do something for me. And he whispered something in Darby's ear. And Darby said he promised too. So, boy, howdy. And then finally, we had Mercedes Moné joined the announce team after doing a little stripper dance, and we saw Riho face Robin Renegade, and I wrote, this is not in any way serious and worth of my time. And then The main event was Josh Alexander and Chia against Top Flight. Dante and Darius, they were back. And this went past the 3 hours. And they did an overrun on their 3-hour show. And the heels won, of course. And then, Brian, see if you can keep track of this.
Oh, the big mess of everyone go ahead.
Yeah. Soon as the heels won, then Lance Archer and Rocky Romero ran in and glommed the baby faces and surrounded Chris Daniels and was going to fucking menace him. But here came Scorpio Sky and Hong Kong Phooey and Kevin Knight, and they hit the ring and had a big sloppy fight with everybody, except then the Hartley boys ran out, and nobody cared, by the way, not a single reaction. It's like, eh. And to counteract them, here came Brody King and Bandito, so Bandito could dive on everybody. And everybody except Rocky and Archer and Chris Daniels got in a sloppy fight and fought to the back. But in the ring, Archer and Rocky then started to beat up Chris Daniels, but then Hangman Adam Page's music played where he came out to save Daniels and cleared the ring out, but Kyle Felcher came out and beat up Page while Rocky and Archer got a table, which they set up at ringside so that Kyle tried to brainbuster Page through the table, but Page made a comeback on Kyle, nailed Rocky, nailed Archer, went to buckshot Kyle, but Kyle grabbed the belt and hit Page in the head with the belt and then gave him a brain buster off the apron through the table. Because hitting him in the head with a belt and knocking him goofy wasn't enough. So now, so the idea that they left the show with, I can't believe I said it, is that when he defends the world title 4 days from now, after having been given a brain buster off the apron through a table to the floor, he might be compromised.
Yeah, it was an interesting end. I mean, a very Tony Khan ending to the show in a lot of ways. Just everyone running out there and brawling, and they probably think it's brilliant. It reminded me, we didn't even discuss, I don't think, earlier in the Moxley match, the spot where Roddy Strong tripped himself because Wheeler Yuta was too late to get to the ring to grab his leg by a second, but enough people noticed it that I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. But it's a unique build, just when I thought WWE had a unique build to their pay-per-view, here's AEW having a pay-per-view that makes you question why. It doesn't really feel like a pay-per-view worthy card, even for them. The build to the Adam Page match is non-existent and nonsensical. Edge and Christian versus FTR, again, the match should be good. The build has been atrocious. As time has gone by, the thing you pointed out, the idea they got back together for that match with Kip Sabian and Killswitch or whatever it was.
Yeah, they gave it away the month before Toronto.
All they had to do was wait until now. I don't think it would have hurt the previous show. So yeah, I'm of the belief that AEW right now is just lost at sea, and the captain is alive and well, and they're just going to stay lost at sea for the foreseeable future or until they can't get a new rights deal.
I'm your captain, and I'm feeling mighty sick.
Well, that was AEW.
Well, that was the September to Remember of the Dynamite and the Collision and the Puddin' Pops and everything. And before we talk about who might or might not have watched this production, Brian, is there any good news from the world of the Arcadian Vanguard Network this fine week?
Another exciting week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, and information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast, or of course on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Each and every day, you mention the news, get your wrestling news for free. None of the fluff, none of the filler, none of the clickbait, none of the paywall, and of course, none of the star ratings. Only the actual wrestling news. Get it from thewrestlingnews.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast, the Morning Wrestling Newscast Only from the wrestling news, want to make mention of Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, a look back at the supercards of 1985. McAdamPod.com or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Of course, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, SUAWPod.com. If you love wrestling history, that is a show for you. But let's mention Irresistible Force, his new biography of Gorilla Monsoon, available wherever you find your favorite books. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! All right, thank you. I can't tell if that was you or a machine. Go through the archive, 605pod.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast, The Mothership.
It's so lifelike. All righty. Did moving out of a former bingo hall in Philadelphia into somewhat of a regular arena and promoting this big 3-hour extravaganza knock them back over the top of 600,000 people this week?
Well, we have the ratings, and again, it's a special 3-hour block of Dynamite and Collision. Wednesday, September 17th, 2025 on TBS, 8 to 10:01, AEW Dynamite was watched on average by 667,000 viewers.
Oh, they made it.
AEW Collision, right after it, 10:01 to 11:06, 535,000 viewers.
Boy, I'll tell you what, that surprises me that they were able to keep that many people to hold on for that long through that show. So I'm not surprised they got over 600 for Dynamite, but over 500 for 10 to 11 after they'd already seen 2 hours of misery.
And again, I thought it was a bad show, so if you were tuning in for the first time in weeks and this is what you saw, I wonder what you think, but let's go to the quarter hours. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m., Adam Page and Kyle Fletcher's live promo, and the Jon Moxley Darby Allen video, 746,000 viewers.
And that is what? Well over 100,000 up from their previous start last week. And it's they haven't started with 700-something thousand for a number of weeks, have they?
It's been a while. It's been in the 600s, I think, recently, but...
So they got to jump on the competition.
Quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m., Roderick Strong versus Jon Moxley with picture-in-picture, 687,000 viewers.
Ouch, okay, and they're back to the pattern of they start with a bigger number and they lose more between the first and the second quarter. So... there went 59,000 people.
We go to quarter 3, 8:30, 8:45 p.m., the continuation of Strong versus Moxley, the MJF Mark Briscoe video, and an ad break, and Bobby Lashley versus Toa Leona with picture-in-picture, 673,000 viewers.
Okay, well, that's only 14,000. I guess that's not bad, but they got to stabilize this to really make their average now, don't they?
And by the way, MJF Mark Briscoe video, that's also the segment, I believe, where MJF and Tony Khan had their audio confrontation.
Yes, they had a little hype video for the match and then that thing that they did.
Well, we go to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. That thing they do. Bobby Lashley versus Toa Leona continued. The post-match with MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Ricochet, and Bishop Khan. An ad break, and the Christian Cage and Cope and FTR entrances, 663,000 viewers.
Okay, well, they've slowed the descent. They lost the majority of what they've lost in the first 15 minutes, and then they've only lost another 24,000.
Well, Jim, it's time for the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The continuation, or I guess the actual segment with Cope and Christian, FTR and Stokely, the Young Bucks backstage promo, and the Bucks versus Austin Gunn and Juice Robinson, 697,000 viewers.
Aha! So they picked up 34,000 at the top of the hour, but unfortunately, the top of the hour contained the Cucamonga Kids, so did they do what they do every time and kill the quarter hour after them?
We go now to the quarter hour after they started that segment, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m., quarter 6. The continuation of the Bucks versus Gunn and Robinson with picture-in-picture. An ad break. The Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Aminata, Triangle of Madness backstage promo. 633,000 viewers.
Ouch. So they lost 64,000 and they've gone to the all-time show low. Thank you, Cucamonga Kids.
Well, Jim, we go to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Beast Mortos versus Mascara Dorada with picture-in-picture. And the post-match with Okada, Don Callis, and Takeshita, followed by an ad break. 618,000 viewers.
Boy, they've got a gift then that, do you think the thread hanging through the show that Kyle was going to hospitalize Paige kept the people through something like that? But why would you want to wait all night to see that?
Yeah, I don't think it was that.
Why would you want to wait all night to see the heel put the babyface in the hospital?
But again, I thought Kyle was the babyface in that segment. It was a condescending heel being a prick for no reason. Jim, we go to quarter 8. I remind you, we have a 1 hour, 6 minute overrun. We go to quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m. Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter, and Chris Statlander's ramp promo, and the start of Tekla versus Queen Aminata in a street fight. 624,000 viewers.
Holy shit, that's a gift. That's the strongest that they have ever done at the end of the show. They're only down 122,000 people, and they actually picked up from quarter 7, which never happens.
Well, Jim, we go now to technically quarter 1 of Collision, 10 to 10:15 p.m. The continuation of Tekla versus Aminata, and the post-match with the Triangle of Madness, Tony Storm and Chris Statlander, and the Death Riders, and Jamie Hayter. Yep, that's it. Then the Skyflight Adam Page backstage angle, and then Kill Switch and Kip Sabian versus Jet Speed with picture-in-picture. 620,000 viewers.
Good God. Again, this Drek, they're keeping a consistent number. They've gone 633, 618, 624, 620. And as bad as I always want to point out when this show sucks, they've never kept a level number like that this late in a program for even shit that was better, and they've even shit that was worse. This is very surprising.
Well, we go to quarter 2 of Collision, 10:15 to 10:30 p.m. Kill Switch and Kip Sabian versus Jet Speed continued. The Big Bill backstage promo, an ad break, and the Darby Allen conversation with Bryan Danielson. 552,000 viewers.
Now reality may be starting to set in, that it's getting late and this just goes on forever.
Quarter 3 of Rampage, 10:30 to 10:45 p.m. Riho versus Robin Renegade with picture-in-picture.
Oh, boy. Okay.
The post-match with Mercedes Moné, a recap, an ad break, the Death Riders Ops video, and the Don Callis ramp promo. 527,000 viewers.
Yeah, there's a limit to anybody's patience. So here we go.
Well, we go now to quarter 4 of Collision. I remind you, we have a 6-minute overrun. 10:40.
I can't believe they stayed above 500,000.
10:45 to 11 p.m. Top Flight versus Hechicero and Josh Alexander with picture-in-picture. 483,000 viewers. 6-minute overrun, including the wild post-match with the Don Callis family, Scorpio Sky, Jet Speed, the Young Bucks, and Bro Dito. 440,000 viewers.
Good Lord. Okay, and they ended up doing the thing they had promised at the start of the 3-hour block by putting Adam Page, well, if not in the hospital, laying him out. He couldn't walk out under his own power. But by that point, 306,000 of the people that saw the setup segment were not there to see the result of it.
It's a great build.
Even when they get a gift and their regular 2-hour block would have gone from 746,000 to 624,000. That ain't bad for them. But they had to hang on way too long, like usual, and go from 624 to 440.
Well, that was AEW Dynamite, a special September to Remember, the lead up to the big pay-per-view this weekend as we are recording. And we'll see what happens next week on this always rewarding show.
Well, and actually, we have to go ahead and sign off now, Brian, because we have to eat a meal before we get up tomorrow and start watching hours and hours and hours of wrestling. So I guess we ought to just turn tail and run right now, shouldn't we?
I guess so. We will be back in a few days on the drive-thru, a special, they're all just promoting shows on the same day, episode of the drive-thru. In a few days, we'll try to get your questions in as well. Some classic wrestling. Jim and I just talked about a few classic wrestling topics off air that I think will be spectacular coming soon. So stay tuned.
It might make me feel better if we do some next week on the program when I'm recovering from my dental surgery. That might brighten my day. Anyway, until then, so we can have a sandwich and get started watching all the action. The action is done for now. Thank you. Fuck you. And we'll see you soon, everybody.